Welcome back to part 2 of the disturbing internet iceberg. If you are unaware of the format of an iceberg, I would recommend going to part 1 on my channel before watching this one. But without further ado, this is part 2 of the disturbing internet iceberg. Karin Waldegrave is an unresolved internet oddity tied to a bizarre social media presence that emerged in 2010 to 2011. According to archived records, a Facebook profile under her name claimed she was a London-born academic. Her profile included unusual biographical details that raised eyebrows online. She said that she was working on a PhD and fluent in many languages, including several real ones and one that didn't exist. What made the account infamous wasn't just the background, but the content of her posts. Over the course of months, Karin published long, rambling messages about conspiracies, intelligence agencies, surveillance, and other fringe topics. At times, she would reply to her own posts hundreds of times, in rapid succession, creating an eerie cascade of text that all attributed to the same account. Observers have debated what the Facebook wall actually represented. Some commenters suggested that the post looked like computer-generated text. Others speculated that it might have been a social experiment, an artistic project, or someone trying to use the platform to post incoherent rants. None of these theories have been confirmed. By early 2015, the original profile was deleted, and its owner vanished from the platform. Deeper refers to a YouTube channel that uploaded a series of cryptic videos built around layered encryption and other puzzle elements. What drew attention wasn't just the codes themselves, but what viewers believed they revealed. After decoding certain sequences, people claimed that the results appeared to reference the names of real-world murder victims, which led to widespread speculation on the intent behind the channel. It's important to be precise here. There has never been any verified evidence confirming that these interpretations were intentional or correct. The alleged name matches depended heavily on subjective decoding methods. The channel eventually stopped uploading. Its final video contained an encrypted message that, once decoded by viewers, appeared to claim that the original creator of the channel had passed away. As for who operated Deeper, no identity has ever been confirmed, no real-world individual has been tied to the channel, and no evidence has emerged to suggest criminal involvement. Because of this, the most grounded interpretation of Deeper was that it was an experimental ARG-style project that deliberately blurred ethical lines, something that many viewers criticized as exploitative or disrespectful due to its apparent use of real victims' names. Yvette Bridal Formal appears at first glance to be a straightforward early 2000s online dress retailer. Now the look of the site is what tips people off that something here is wrong. The anomaly begins once investigators move beyond the visible storefront. While browsing the archive directory, users discovered that the domain contained hundreds of additional pages that had nothing to do with clothing. These pages consist almost entirely of dense, unformatted text. The topics are consistent across many of them. They talk about government surveillance, mind control, secret societies, UFOs. These pages read like manifesto-style essays, collections of copied passages, and long personal treatises. These pages are not hosted on a separate domain. They exist inside the same directory structure as the dress listings. The snapshots of the site that we have now show shared headers, shared footers, and overlapping folder paths between product pages and conspiracy pages. In practical terms, the storefront and the conspiracy archive were built as a single website. Lake City Quiet Pills was the name given to a website that operated primarily between 2009 and 2012. The official name of the URL was Lake City Quiet Pills, but the nickname of the site was That Old Guy's Image Host. The website was created by an individual whose username on Reddit was u/Religion of Peace. Religion of Peace engaged in many discussions online, primarily on programming subreddits. One post claims that the account owner was a World War II veteran, aging him around 70 years old or older. His account would most often promote his site, Lake City Quiet Pills. The site was basic and acted as an image post website, kind of like Imager, but in one corner of the site lied a secret, not meant to be found. Here the communications involved locations, times, and cryptic language. that many thought was referring to activities of hitmen taking hits and contracts on people. One specific example showed some of the details from the communications that lined up with a real assassination of a member of Hamas in 2010. But the story went even deeper. There was an account from 2001 linked to the Religion of Peace account. This would be normal, but the note on the account stated, "Dispensing Lake City quiet pills to those in need of a permanent rest." Later on, a post was made from the account Religion of Peace, claiming that the owner of the account had died, and that the person typing the post was a friend who got his first gig from him after he got out of the military. This rabbit hole goes incredibly deep, but to put it short, many think that the site was a front for a legitimate hitman communication network on the surface web. To this day, the mystery persists. The term Google Translate Mystery refers to an odd series of translation outputs and behavioral anomalies observed by users of Google Translate during the mid-2010s. These incidents were shared widely across forums like Reddit and 4chan, where users documented cases in which random, nonsensical input strings produced coherent, unsettling, or highly specific translated phrases. The most frequently cited examples involve users entering repetitive characters, gibberish strings, or short meaningless syllables and receiving full English sentences in return, rather than error message or unchanged text. Some screenshots showed apocalyptic statements, references to war, mentions of surveillance or being watched, and first-person statements such as "I am watching you" or "We are coming." These outputs appeared across multiple language pairs. At the time, Google Translate relied heavily on statistical machine translation, which attempted to predict output based on massive datasets. Because of this, certain meaningless inputs repeatedly resolved into the same sentences across different users and devices. In practical terms, the system was hallucinating. It wasn't pulling from a hidden message database, it was generating high probability output in situations where it had insufficient meaningful input. Normal Porn for Normal People began as a creepypasta story published in the late 2000s, describing a fictional adult website that appeared normal on the surface, but allegedly hosted deeply disturbing videos of mutilation and fetish content instead of conventional pornography. The story circulated across creepypasta hosting sites and in horror forums, where it was presented as a first-person account of discovering the site and clicking through its content. The original creepypasta describes a site with a plain layout and a grid of thumbnails, short tiles, and no branding. According to the story, the disturbing nature of the videos only becomes apparent after clicking into individual entries. Importantly, the creepypasta never provides a working URL. The website exists only as a narrative device inside the story. As the story gained popularity, fans attempted to recreate the concept. Several fan-made websites appeared over the years, claiming to be the real Normal Porn for Normal People site. These sites were inspired by the creepypasta and attempted to mimic the described layout and premise. None were confirmed to be the original creepypasta author. The Heaven's Gate website is the official web presence created by members of the Heaven's Gate group in the mid-1990s. It remains online today and is widely considered one of the oldest, continuously accessible cult websites on the internet. The site was originally created to distribute the group's beliefs. The design of the site has remained largely unchanged since the 1990s, and with it, all of the extensive written material, including statements outlining the group's belief system, descriptions of extraterrestrial beings and spacecraft, and explanations of graduation to a higher level of existence. The Heaven's Gate belief system combined elements of Christianity, science fiction, and New Age spirituality. Central to the group's thinking was the idea that the Earth was about to undergo a form of recycling in which most human life would be wiped out. In 1997, the group became fixated on the appearance of a comet. They thought that there was a spacecraft traveling behind the comet and that it represented the long-awaited opportunity for its members to leave Earth. In March of 1997, the members were found dead inside of a rented mansion in Santa Fe, California. All had died by ingesting a lethal mixture. After the mass suicide, the website did not disappear. Instead, it remained online and continued to be maintained by the two surviving former members, who were not present at the time of the deaths. These individuals stated publicly that they still believe in the group's teachings and choose to keep the site active as a form of preservation and outreach. Markovian Parallax Denigrate refers to a series of strange and unresolved messages posted in the early internet discussion system Usenet in 1996. These posts are often cited as one of the oldest unresolved digital mysteries because of their origin, purpose, and meaning remain unknown 2 decades later. Usenet was a precursor to modern forums and social media, allowing users to post messages to topic-based news groups. In early of August 1996, hundreds of messages began appearing across multiple Usenet groups with the same exact subject line, Markovian Parallax Denigrate. The subject line itself does not have any known meaning. The 3 words do not form a recognizable phrase in English and has never been shown to correspond with any official title. The body of these posts consists entirely of strings of seemingly random English words, like jitterbug, McKinley, Abe-break, Newtonian, interfering, nameable, yearbook, hark. These strings are coherent at the level of individual words, but they don't form sentences, narratives, or logically structured phrases. Some thought they were a part of a hidden code or cipher, similar to Cold War number stations, where seemingly nonsensical transmissions were used to communicate with agents in the field. But to this day, none of the narratives have been proven. Indian Lake Project refers to a self-published internet mystery and conspiracy blog that first appeared in the mid-2000s. It's not a government report, official archived, or confirmed historical record. It's a story created and maintained by an individual or a small group, posting under the name John. The narrative blends local mystery and alleged government experiments. The investigation is set around Indian Lake, New York. The blog's earliest entries introduce a premise that begins with a weathered metal box discovered near Indian Lake. According to the author, he found the metal box while on a hike, and inside were film reels, pictures, and documents. These materials were said to point towards the existence of a purported secret research facility called the Indian Lake Project. The story claims that this project operated in the 1950s and involved experimentation on children, potentially linked to the Cold War era programs. Some versions of the narrative connect the Indian Lake Project to real historical CIA experiments like Project Artichoke and MKUltra. The Wyoming Incident is an internet horror story and alternate reality game based on a fictional broadcast signal intrusion. The unsettling video circulated through online communities in the mid-2000s. It's not a verified event, but rather a piece of internet folklore and collaborative storytelling that evolved over time. The central premise is that the Wyoming Incident in 2006 occurred when a television station in Niobrara County, Wyoming was allegedly hijacked by an unknown individual. During the hijack, images of faces appeared on screen with cryptic messages. There's no credible evidence that ever such a broadcast intrusion occurred. No local news records, station logs, or documented eyewitness accounts exist. Orie Chef is an internet urban legend that originated on Facebook and spread through various online communities in 2018. It refers to a piece of internet folklore that grew out of a bizarre series of Facebook posts, images, and user interactions. The name appears to be used both as a personal profile handle and an alias. The individual, Orie Chef, is associated with a set of Facebook accounts that feature unusual content and imagery. The accounts involved repeatedly use the same profile image across multiple linked accounts. Many of the linked profiles appear to be duplicates or mirror accounts, each using slightly edited images of the same person. Some of the accounts contained gore images, unrelated personal photos, and other disturbing material, as well as nonsensical posts. One of the earliest posts showed a Facebook comment that readers translated as a statement about wanting to be cremated before her husband. One part of the lore involves a story about another character named Daphne, which was said to be posted by Orie on her page. According to those retellings, the Daphne post described a grim backstory involving self-harm and haunting, though there's no independent verification of this story and whether it was factional or connected to real individuals. Ted the Caver is an early internet horror story presented as a first-person online journal depicting a man named Ted who explores a newly discovered cave system with his friend known as just B. It's widely regarded as one of the earliest and most influential examples of found footage-style creepypasta presented through web blogs rather than traditional fiction. The site documented the initial discovery of a small tight cave opening, attempts to widen the entrance, and detailed descriptions of crawling through narrow tunnels. Equipment lists, photos, and sketches escalating problems inside the cave. Page design was intentionally plain and resembling a genuine hobbyist caving site rather than a fiction project. The story unfolds gradually. Ted and his friend B explore deeper into the cave. They begin encountering conditions that do not behave like normal geology. Unexplained air currents, sounds described as scraping, movements, or distant impacts, areas that seem to change shape, and a narrow passage that appears to lead to a large, unknown void. Ted becomes fixated on a specific area he calls the lower tunnel. He notes that the rock texture is different, and the space feels different. He never describes a creature, he never describes a visual entity. He repeatedly implies space feels occupied. Photographs embedded throughout the site show dark cave passages, tight squeezes, and shadowy chambers. These images are real cave photos used to reinforce realism. As the journal progresses, Ted becomes increasingly fixated on reaching this weird area. The final entries describe Ted returning alone without his friend. The last update ends abruptly, with no conclusion or follow-up. The story was written by Ted Higeman, who later confirmed that it was a work of fiction. At the time of release, many readers believed the journal was real. Tanasinn refers to a strange website network centered around pages, such as Tanasinn 2A HTML, which have existed online since the 2000s. Rather than functioning as a conventional website, Tanasinn presents itself as a single long-scrolling document with dense text, symbols, and ACSI-style layouts. Scattered throughout the page are simple hyperlinks, usually embedded inside or beneath text blocks. These links lead to other Tanasinn pages with similar layouts and equally cryptic content. There is no clear hierarchy, no index, no explanation on how the pages connect. Each page appears to function as another fragment of the same larger body of material. None of the pages provide instructions, puzzles, or explicit goals. To this day, the purpose of the sites is unknown. A858 refers to a Reddit account and subreddit that began posting on 2011. Huge blocks of opaque, hex-like, encoded strings uploaded repeatedly to r/858DE4. The post had no explanation. The typical submissions were long lines of hexadecimal or base-looking text, and sometimes data that to the community looked like ciphertext or binary dumps. For years, cryptographers formed dedicated spaces to try and decode the messages, but no unified consistent message or narrative ever emerged. Some of the decoded strings produced short, readable English words, or sentence fragments, such as system, controlled, access, memory, sequence, process, and occasional partial phrases like this is not, data stream, begin transfer. To this day, the mystery still persists. Superbad.com is a massive experimental art website that has existed since 1997 and remains online today. There is no homepage, no explanation, and no instructions. Visiting the site drops you into a single page, chosen at random. From there, the only way forward is clicking. Every page contains images, drawings, animations, text fragments, or interactive elements that link to other pages. Some links are obvious, others are hidden inside images, tiny symbols, or blank spaces. The site consists of thousands of individual pages, all interconnected in a non-linear structure. It behaves less like a website and more like a closed digital universe. The Mayday Mystery refers to a phenomenon buried deep in the archives of the Arizona Wildcat, a daily college newspaper. The newspaper contained ads that were never meant to sell anything. No products or services or announcements, just blocks of symbols, equations, and obscure references that appeared every year around May 1st. The earliest examples date back to the 1980s. At a glance, they resemble puzzle pages, but closer inspections reveal something stranger. References to classical literature, mathematics, esoteric philosophy, physics, and cryptography appear side by side, often without obvious connection. In the 1990s, a University of Arizona student named Brian Hance noticed the pattern and began collecting the ads, eventually creating a website dedicated to cataloging, analyzing, and spreading awareness. Online communities attempted to crack the messages, searching for hidden ciphers. None produced a confirmed solution. Some researchers believe the ads are fragments of a much larger unfinished puzzle. Others think they're philosophical exercises. A darker interpretation suggests the entire phenomenon could be the product of an isolated individual, slowly unraveling, leaving behind a decades-long trail of increasingly long, abstract writings. The glitter conspiracy refers to a long-running theory that the largest consumer of glitter in the world is not the craft industry, cosmetics, or children products, and that whoever it is doesn't want to be known. The idea originates from a 2019 investigation into the largest glitter manufacturer in the United States. During the factory tour, a company representative was asked who their biggest customer was. The answer was not a brand name or an industry, nor a corporation. It was simply, "I know who it is, and you would never guess it." Online researchers began attempting to reverse engineer where the massive quantities of glitter could realistically be used. One widely accepted theory points to industrial paint and coatings. Metallic flake, chemically similar to glitter, is used in automated finishes, but some think that it has use in military applications. Still, to this day, the glitter conspiracy remains open. Sentimental Corp is a website, not a story or a puzzle game, but an unsettling corner of the internet that defies easy explanation. The site is filled with strange imagery and unsettling audio, warped faces, distorted videos, eerie clips, and soundtracks that many visitors describe as disturbing. There is no clear theme. Disturbing imagery paired with meme songs and nonsensical videos. No purpose explained, no narrative offered. Just an overwhelming labyrinthian collection of content that feels like it's made to provoke discomfort. Some of the links were labeled with phrases like parasite dreams and the shrine of goat worship. Some of the media includes social commentary woven with conspiracy-tinged imagery, references to the Illuminati control systems, and hidden elites. The site even warns that certain videos hosted can harm your mental state. There is no verified creator. To many visitors, Sentimental Corp feels less like a horror story and more like an experiment in atmosphere, a digital space designed to unsettle rather than explain. Tired.com is a very obscure internet website that simply asks if you are tired. If you click on the hyperlink, it sends you to an email where you can send an email answering why you are tired. It historically became known because hundreds of people sent long emails explaining why they were tired. The site was created in 1997 by Mike Kunavsky as a simple joke, but ended up gathering thousands of unsolicited emails from visitors over the years, so much so that the owner kept track of them. This isn't disturbing, but it's still an interesting bit of old internet lore. Happy Valley Dream Survey refers to a phenomenon where in multiple towns across the United States, strange flyers appeared in public spaces asking a simple question: have you been having strange dreams? These posters direct people to call a phone number, a real working line, and leave a description of their most recent dream after the tone. The earliest known instance appeared in Portland, Oregon around 2015, with flyers plastered to telephone poles and walls with nearly identical messages inviting anyone who had vivid or unusual dreams to contribute. When the number was dialed, a female robotic voice answered and prompted the caller to describe their dream. What happens next is where this mundane experiment turns odd. Callers reported that after hanging up, the line would send back an automated message thanking them for participating, and sometimes the same number would call back in the middle of the night, ringing only for a few seconds before hanging up. Nearly identical posters were found in Utah under the name Happy Valley Dream Survey, using the same format and phone approach. There is no verified organization behind these surveys, no website, no published study, no public identity, just anonymous flyers and a phone number linked to an inscrutable voice email. Happy Valley Dream Survey remains unsolved. Erratas is an online mystery and conspiracy that originated on anonymous image boards like 4chan in late 2015. It's a word that a user claimed you should never search for because doing so would supposedly get you flagged or fired from your job. The earliest account began with an anonymous poster claiming that a friend found a box in a factory labeled Erratas, and a coworker warned them not to search the word, saying the company had programs that would fire employees who would try. From there, the concept snowballed. Erratas became described as a mysterious computer algorithm allegedly used by large corporations to access internal systems, enforce copyright takedowns, and somehow police employees' searches. Some version of the story linked Erratas to major companies like UPS and Ecolab, suggesting it was a shadowy surveillance tool embedded in corporate IT infrastructure. As the tale spread, it began intersecting with other fringe elements. Videos by YouTube users claiming Erratas monitored or targeted them, supposed hidden Morse code discovered in clips, and even connections drawn to obscure music acts like KFC Murder Chicks. A police sketch loosely tied to the original posts became visually associated with Erratas in some discussions, giving the phenomenon a sort of impromptu iconography. Despite years of chatter, there's no reliable evidence that Erratas is a real algorithm, corporate tool, or surveillance system. Some even argue that Erratas was an alternate reality game, a story that threads through unrelated media, videos, and social posts. To this day, Erratas remains unsolved. In the early days of YouTube, there was a user named HumanBeing15, a name now tied with one of the most enigmatic channels in the platform's early history. The channel gained notoriety in 2010 when a Cracked article highlighted its bizarre and obsessive content, particularly a video that showed an unremarkable clustered room filled with hundreds of handwritten notebooks. The uploader walked through this room, revealing shelves and stacks upon stacks of books, all scrawled with the same repeated message, "Brother Diddy, please accept," and similar pleas directed at the hip-hop artist P. Diddy. There is no explanation or narrative voice, just the camera's slow march through the cramped space. Viewers noticed one sign reading, "Mr. Diddy, all this hard work I have done for you," implying the notebooks were a part of a fan's stalker attempt to communicate with the musician. Nobody Here refers to NobodyHere.com, a famous early 2000s experimental Flash website. NobodyHere.com is generally understood to be an interactive digital art project rather than an ARG or puzzle with a solution. There's no goal or ending, no hidden truth to uncover. Instead, it explores themes of loneliness, emptiness, time, digital isolation, and the feeling of being present in a place that doesn't acknowledge you. The site is an example of existential internet horror rooted in mood rather than narrative. Dozerfleet Productions claims to be an independent entertainment think tank and data warehouse founded in 1994, handling media distribution, and Dozerfleet Labs releasing software or downloadable assets. That's the public face, but if you dive deeper, something feels excessive. The wiki contains thousands of pages of content, much of it self-referential and obsessively detailed about projects that don't appear anywhere outside the wiki itself. On forums like Reddit, users describe Dozerfleet as a one-man wiki dedicated to a made-up company, a gargantuan collection of texts and entries that seem to exist not because of a widely known franchise, but because someone spent years building it. For some observers, this is the strangest part. There's no recognizable Dozerfleet media actually in the wild. No published films, no TV series. Only documentation of things that might exist, hosted on a wiki and presented with seriousness. Some online commentators see Dozerfleet as a monument to obsessive fandom and self-published myth-making, a place where a creator cataloged his own ideas with dedication. At first glance, hell.com is just a memorable domain, one word loaded with implication. But in the early internet era, it was much more than just a name. Hell.com became the internet's most enigmatic space. It wasn't an obvious public homepage, a blog, or a storefront. It was a public, cryptic digital environment, intentionally designed to be elusive. Visitors who typed in the URL were greeted with minimalist, mysterious screens, often black pages with a single link. Navigation was intentionally difficult. Loops and redirects made exploration feel like a labyrinth. Behind the scenes, Hell.com was described not just as a website, but as an exclusive network of web artists and net art visionaries, a parallel web for creatives to experiment outside the mainstream. Some pages played with cryptic text and navigation tricks, while others were virtual spaces only a handful of invited users could access. The founder of the site once described it all as a vast creative project, a space beyond the ordinary web experiences. Over the years, Hell.com's accessibility faded. After several attempted domain sales, including a failed auction with reserve bids in the millions, the original artwork and experiences disappeared from the live web. That will have to do it for part 2 of the disturbing internet iceberg. As always, comment below or leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And as always, thank you for watching.